Right, good afternoon. We are going through and updating our agent. As you can tell from the title, we are getting stuck by Mount Moon again. It seems like what is happening is that we faint at some point when it's pretty much got the map explored. So it decides to try and go backwards in the game to explore more of the area. And then what we're seeing here is basically the scores are not changing. If you tie these out to which of the agents are running, I had 24 running at the same time. So I think what is happening is that it's just not leveling enough, and then not leveling or capturing enough Pokemon. That eventually it starts fainting a lot in the Mount Moon area. Um, it's then increased its explore reward just about as much as it can in there, because the last part is going out through those stairs and then coming out of the tunnel, and then getting sent all the way back to the beginning once it faints, and then it tries to make its way through, and each time that starts to bounce off, it decides to try something else. So I had a couple ideas here. One is to increase the threshold for the levels before tapering that off a bit. So before I'd set it to 20 before tapering that off. That was reducing it by 4 for the starter Pokemon. But I think that ends up causing it to not level enough in there. But the flip side of that is that it may try even harder in Mount Moon to increase its level and then struggle to do so. What I had seen on some of the agents was that it was using the lower level Pokemon first. So it seemed like it was making an attempt to still increase its level, because I think you're facing a lot of like level, I think up to like 15 in there. The Blastoises, because they were getting Blastoises pretty regularly, um, not really going to level for the use of Bubble there, and then it eventually runs out of moves and faints itself, and it doesn't really have much else for that. A common strategy for people in the game is to you put the weaker Pokemon out first. You then immediately, once the battle begins, swap in the other Pokemon. Then you're splitting the XP in half, but hopefully then the weaker Pokemon levels up enough that it can start to do the fights on its own, and then you back out and heal and come back in. So I think there's a few things here, because we are seeing decent enough heal scores, but it's not actually progressing through here. We can see the badge reward. We increased that to be 20 times number of badges here. I don't think that that was a sufficient, or not sufficient. It wasn't enough of a reward, because I haven't figured out where to get the second badge for it to run along that way. So a couple ideas here would be to change the way it's handling the level rewards. We're cutting it in half here. So you would more or less double this by doing it that way, which hopefully would then incentivize it to at least continue doing some of the leveling. Another idea here is to push up the healing again. Last time we had gone from 2 to 3 times on that, and then that's percentage based. So for every percent that you heal one of your Pokemon's health, you do get an increase in score for the heal. And so another idea is to take this up even higher. And then when we had it at 5 last time, it was hanging around the Pokemon Center, but I think that was more for the reward for getting the Magikarp there. So we may reintroduce that loop, which I hope is not the case. Typically, what I was seeing from when I could get screenshots in the parties, I had learned to not go through the menus as much, which is a good thing. But then here was the one where it basically had started getting stuck in the center in Mount Moon. Another idea here, just constantly healing the Pokemon, then trying to trade for the Magikarp, which you can only do one time. and then just kind of staying there. So there is some potential that we reintroduce those issues here, but the strategy here is I'm going to take this up. So it likes to use Blastoise or Squirtle on its own. It doesn't particularly change much. There's an idea that realistically, like we could put a max contribution on each of these to there. So like once it's above 20, it doesn't really count as much, but then that creates complexity in how you're handling that. And we want to keep this simplified so that way it can move through, continue the runs more quickly. So this here was like once it got to level 20, it would do 20 plus whatever was left over from that divided by 2, taking off the 4 here for starter value. I think I'm gonna make this 6 because I no longer have like the starter Pokemon after you do the first battle there at Oak Slab is actually level 6. So leaving that here at 6, and then I'm just gonna try and take this up to 30. Means I have to make all these 20s here 30. Do that to increase the rewards that it's receiving. We're hoping here is that we can reward those behaviors. One of the interesting things here was with the items, never really prioritized the scoring here. I'm afraid to take this up too much more than the captured score, but it may be worthwhile for us to take up the reward for capturing Pokemon as well. Just because what a lot of what I was seeing is that they only have parties of 2 or 3 Pokemon, and one of them being the Magikarp that it trades for in Mount Moon, which isn't particularly helpful. That that would be a way to encourage it to do more along the way. And then the rewards here, I'm going to take this actually down to 3, and I want to make this higher. I'm just deciding on whether it should be like 2 or 3. Let's do this times 2, and then this times 3. So overall, should see increases in this, and I'm going to take spec to 5. So every 5% or every percentage that it heals times 5 for that reward. And then this back down. Those badges should be encouraged, whether it's because there's the event reward, there's the badge reward here, but I don't know necessarily about adding too much of that. I would rather encourage it to do things like increasing the Pokemon that it has and then increasing their levels. So changing those up a bit, reducing a little bit from the rewards because you're going to get more levels now, and you're going to get more rewards for doing capturing like wild Pokemon. And hopefully this is enough to um, sorry. Hopefully it's enough to encourage the behavior that we want here. I want to make this change. And the other one was the last time here, I had set it to do 200 in terms of the episode length, and it just ended up getting to be far too long. So it's going to do about 200,000 steps along the way there. And then we're going to train every 4,000 steps. I think is fine. I'm actually going to take this back one level here. I'm just going to grab this out. I guess 2 saves. Try and see if we get a little bit better results and less getting stuck in Mount Moon. Because that was one that got stopped at the Pokemon Center there. I know there was a version. This one was around the 30 million step mark that had actually gotten here. There's an idea to go back to that one, but I don't know that we will actually see the improvements there. So I want to take it back to this 45 million step mark, hopefully seeing improvements, and then we have some new sessions here. So this was, it done multiple, it crashed at one point overnight. So unfortunately I didn't get huge amounts of time here, but there were, it was just kind of hanging around in certain places, no longer really progressing the game. Here's one that had crashed out, stuck in the same place about halfway through its run. This one from last night where it seemed like it had started to, you can see here it had a Blastoise. Even some of them had a few Pokemon in their party. I'm hoping that it will have a few more, level those up. Here's one that it had actually stored the Blastoise, and it only had some of the other Pokemon, so it was getting decently high leveled, like you see at 38 here, but it just wasn't actually progressing through the game at that point. And then, like I said, it ended up crashing it. This was one in the middle of the night. Seems like it had gotten to the first gym area, or started doing more exploring afterwards, and really no progress there. It had made one save, so it had completed a full run, but not enough progress there. So I always have that save state that I could go back to if needed. So this will be it. We show the level. Make sure these are both saved. Um, it seemed like we had the item rewards here to encourage it for having items in its inventory that, if necessary, and it doesn't figure that out through capturing more of the Pokemon, then we will also work to try and um, increase the score here. Actually, let's just do it now. We'll just take it up to 0.1. So doubling the reward that it's obtaining for things like items, and then hopefully progress here. So scroll to the end here of its runs. You can see here that it had done decent progress, but not enough. Fortunately, we're kind of stuck at Mount Moon, and we're hoping to be able to pass through that. So I'll go back to Peloton here at the beginning. Because it's working from that save point, usually once we get going here, it will quickly rush to Brock and then hopefully continue through Mount Moon and hopefully find its way out. So hopefully this combination. So it's just starting to set all the environment variables, and then go ahead and it's creating each of the instances. I may crash because I think I still have it on 24 instances at the same time. But we'll give it a shot and see how it goes. We have to start. Gotten a few, seen a few. Now hopefully we're appearing on the map. I am seeing a few of them too there. I'm surprised we already have one that, at least one that had died. The map is at least showing others now. Is it showing will HOS or am I just out of resources? So I can, there we go. Okay. We do see a few of them. There's pretty much. We're showing that it is training and hopefully making progress. Unfortunately, I think wrapper is not going to work as well just because this is 24 instances running at the same time. So if we crash it out, what I'll do is I will close out or I'll restart it with only 12 because we're not showing here on the map at all. And this may just be more of an issue with, I guess, the resources are trying to run 24 at the same time. So here we have the second train. So I'm going to bring this down. I updated it to 12, so hopefully we can still see things like the map. Now if I reload it, it could be better overall. We just started. There we go. Another idea is if I can figure out the coordinates for Pokemon centers, that you give it points for going in there for the first time, just so that way when it activates it, it then can move its save point. Basically, when it would die, it can move along. But we have a couple of Vermilion, which is good. Look at the forest. It's at least gained a few, or at least a level. But we'll see somewhere around that 10 to 12,000 mark that they start encountering and beating that first gym. Is anyone, at least a couple, have captured a Pokemon and seen a few as well. This one has two captured, at least a couple of them have. So we're seeing positive progress in terms of learning to capture some Pokemon, hopefully level them up. Seeing a good amount of fluctuation in the level. Wish we could see them on the map a little more. Here we are. another general overarching idea is to increase the number of times that it learns, which is what I did here. So even though it's doing 200,000 steps, about every 1,000 steps, it goes through the learning process. So hopefully we can quickly identify, quickly have the agent identify the things that it wants to do and encourage those behaviors that increase the rewards. Um, then if I were to increase the number of steps in a later point, I would need to make adjustments to the calculation as well. Before I've been doing every 4,000 steps for it to learn something, and that's potentially enough time for in Mount Moon to not really have made any progress, that have fainted and decide to go out there. So we threw a lot of different things at the model here to hopefully encourage it to learn the behavior of going through. Because once I'd gotten it through, I thought, oh, I should give it more steps. So I increased the steps from learning every 2048 to every 4096. And maybe that was more of a trigger for all of this, where it could no longer make it through Mount Moon. Because what was happening was I would run out of steps towards the end of Mount Moon, so it couldn't progress much more beyond that. And I should have taken the overall, increased the overall number of steps without increasing the time or amount of steps between retraining behaviors. So we're seeing here slow increase in the leveling score. Before we were mostly hovering in single digits. Now a fair amount of them are in the tens. A good amount of them still have that, one or two additional Pokemon. The scene count is going up, which means it's progressing through. Most likely, open map back up here. Yeah, we're into Viridian Forest, so it's encountering the trainers and the Pokemon there. So Caterpies, Weedles, the trainers have. I think Kakunas, Metapods, all those too. So should get a fair amount of points for going through and do the trainer battles, and then increasing his progress there. Another thing here is that the item scores, we doubled those. We're pretty much seeing them double up from before. So just straight like linear increase there. Haven't particularly seen many it learning to buy things. So hopefully we can have that behavior be learned somewhere along the way here. I don't even know that it necessarily learned that in the Pokemon at all during the previous runs. But the idea being that with extra points on healing, it should start buying more potions, and then extra rewards for just having items, extra rewards for capturing Pokemon, that we have it learn to use the Pokemon Center more frequently. So it looks like we have the first couple that have started to make its way into Pewter. Unfortunately, the level 10, level 12, probably not enough to be beating Brock yet. It's going to try with the level 10, so I'm kind of surprised it may beat the first one and then get kicked back to the Pokemon Center. Looks like one had managed to stop there on its own. But we are getting where you saw about that 10,000 step mark. I really like level 6. Yeah, that one's going to have a tough time. We are seeing a significant increase in these event scores now. So like I said, level continuing to see some progress. So compared to other iterations, it had actually not leveled as much as before trying to go through Brock and its gym. So a little bit of the opposite effect of what I wanted. I wanted it to level Pokemon a bit more. We'll give a little bit of time, or a little bit more time to this. We're only at the 20,000 mark. For example, that one with a level 12 Squirtle should be able to do it. The other ones will struggle. Couple with some more levels here. I'm afraid to go into the session folder for it because what had happened the other day, or this morning, was I had kicked it back off after finding that it had failed to run. Then I checked in. I just wanted to see how it was doing. And then as soon as I clicked it into the folder, I ended up crashing it out. I couldn't save the file anymore. Looks like I do see that at least one of them, both how frequently this is folding through, it seems like a couple of them have managed to beat Brock already. So that is good to see. Because I read around that we're at the 12,000 step range, which we start getting there, and we did. A few of them, I guess, they're averaging on like 3 to 4 deaths already. What else? So it's got about 100 each, or all of them now have about 100 points in terms of their score. Most of them have the 20 plus event score. So it's doing a lot of the trainer battles along the way. A fair amount of leveling here. But before these were cut in half, so we're starting to see them start to get up close to 20. And then we adjusted the threshold back from 20 to 30. So we should see linear increase still, hoping that by the time it makes it into the Mount Moon area, that we can hopefully get through a little bit easier there. If it stacks all the levels on a single Pokemon, then you won't get as much there. But hopefully, it will learn to, you'd seen from screenshots, to change out the Pokemon that it was using. So instead of just using like they had gotten up to Blastoise, is just using that the whole time. We're starting to level some of the other Pokemon. I'd seen one with a like level 20 Pidgeotto, which Pidgeotto is fairly good in Mount Moon because there are a lot of Zubats, and its leech life is a bug move, so it doesn't got resistance on that. It struggles a bit with the rock types that are in there, but that's kind of a trade-off that you'll just kind of have to take. So it seems like roughly 50-50 have gotten a badge, which is great. I'm hoping that we start showing on the map again, and we can see some of them continuing their way towards Mount Moon. Where's some of the other ones? Map, okay. One of them's trying to force their way, getting rejected, but that one will soon, or evolve soon. Yeah, a good amount of them are still here at Vermilion. Got to work their way through Vermilion Forest and make their way into Pewter, but definitely a decent start here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not too bad overall. Oh, part of the reason why is we're not showing all of them um, in the steps here. We're only showing about 4 per step here, so we only have 1 or 2 who actually completed the badge. The rest are still learning their way. Yeah, so if I widen it a bit, you can see all the ones without the 100 score. So if it, because of the width that I'd set it to, if it had a score 100, it was writing out for the each row individually. Grab that. There we go. So that's a more realistic looking picture. Now hopefully we're showing all the steps here. So 1, 2, yeah, only 2 of them had actually completed the gym. Okay, that's better. I thought there were half. Then I wasn't seeing that there, right? Like half of them are literally stuck here in the Path to Victory Road. A couple of them are in the forest, and then there's going to be 1 or 2 up here. Hoping for more progress. Unfortunately, only 2 have beat the gym so far at about the 20,000 step mark. Part of this may just be reshuffling of the priorities. I am seeing a good amount of them start to get into the 20s in terms of the level points, which is nice, which means they've caught a few Pokemon. I do see a 9 in here, so one of them has caught 3 additional Pokemon in the starter, or it may have been one that caught 2 and evolved. I only saw 1 more turtle when I was looking around, so hopefully it's the case where they've learned to capture a few Pokemon, hopefully level them up. Uh, if that's not the case, then there may be additional work, uh, additional work for the leveling reward to encourage it to level some of the weaker Pokemon that it has. And that presents a challenge of with using the lookup list for keeping track of their levels. What would happen is, if I say, okay, give it bonus points for the first couple levels, then after that kind of starts to taper the reward individually, you'll see more spread out levels across its Pokemon. But I don't know that I want to have it teach it that behavior for the long term, because then as you would progress in the game, it would be incentivized to capture Pokemon, level it a couple times, and then move on from it. And that wouldn't be good for its overall progress, because then it doesn't have a couple heavyweight Pokemon to help carry it through, because realistically, you can only ever have that team of 6. Well, let's check in here. Scroll through here. 14 step. How many have the badge? 5 so far. So about half have gotten there at about the 20,000 step mark, 22,000 step mark. That seems fine. The other ones are still finding their way. I do see one that is we've already got squirrels and wood turtles in Vermilion Forest, so it's definitely I don't want to say slowed its progress. It's definitely focused more on the leveling in terms of making progression. I see another one here that has a wood turtle and hasn't necessarily made it to the first one. Hasn't made it to the first gym, which I can see it as incentivizing that leveling without because we disincentivized the gym by reducing its score from 20 to 5. So it still has plenty of reason to go to the gym. But for now, it is just going to do, it seems like a fair amount of leveling beforehand, which what I'm hoping then it can carry that momentum when it gets to Mount Moon to power its way through there, as that had been our biggest bottleneck is we ended up going backwards because in the time frame that it had, it couldn't rediscover the path out of here successfully, but it had seen the location on the map and it couldn't figure out how to increase or how to progress further and increase that exploration score, and then ended up getting stuck. The hope here, we have one war turtle here outside. I think that's 9, 2, 3. We'd seen about 5 had made the gym so far. When it stops to do the training, I'll quick scroll back. It shouldn't be too far off from that. And we can see its progress on the badges. Also take a look and see how many have other captured Pokemon. Unfortunately, if the captured is not just the Pokemon that it caught, it also counts because I'm using the Pokedex for it. So by doing it that way, here we go. So here's the last step before then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So half have made it through. We know the ones that likely have the badge will likely have a war turtle. So yeah, they've caught 1 or 2 additional Pokemon overall, which is about what we had seen before. This one's a little bit lagging behind in terms of the overall score. It's died the fewest though, so there's a bit of a trade-off there. It does have a decent Explorer score. It's just falling behind the others as well. So that one is further behind overall. One of them already had 34 for a level reward, which is quite significant. So it's already it's probably a decent level war turtle and then another Pokemon or 2 in its party because Magikarp is level 5 when you get it, or it captured a Pokemon somewhere near Mount Moon because that would be what level 10ish there, 10 to 15. So you're going to get a sudden boost in your score there. I was surprised we had been in that 20 range, but then all of a sudden seeing some in the 30s. Yeah, I can see it like fluctuate there. I even see a 4 now, so curious if it had learned. Another thing here is that the item score, it seems like it has a few items. I know it's going to have things like the town map. It's also going to have the, what does it give you? It gives you, I think, a TM. When you beat him, I think it's Bide. Not necessarily a strong move. Not many Pokemon can learn it, so that's probably sitting in inventory too. Yeah, go through here real quick. 42, so quite a bit. Probably caught a few, a couple here in the 30s as well. Yeah, that one that has 42 has 12 in terms of captured, so it caught 4 or 5 Pokemon. Caught 1 evolution, right? That's 1, and then probably caught 2 or 3 others. So that would be it. But that one has by far the highest score. That's probably one of them here. Caught a few Pokemon, and hopefully we can start to see progressing. I do want to go back to this area. That's the corner. That one's going backwards. But it seems like it's the only one that's that way. A couple of them are still here at the town. So these 4, 5, the ones who have not beaten Brock yet, and then the other ones are already here, progressing along the way. So I'm going to, what I'll do is I'll bring this down, bring the stream down. I will not be streaming tomorrow. I'll be letting this run for a little bit. I do see that multiple now have multiple captures. That it seems like that encouragement has helped significantly in terms of getting more Pokemon into the party. We were only seeing 2, 3 on it, and now hopefully we're into like the 4, 5 range. So I think that is the good part of the outcome. I'm seeing, and before we had like 3 or 4 deaths. Now I'm starting to see a 7 in there, 9 even. That's one of the ones that are further behind. But it may just be some of the leveling, some of the things here, encouraging it and hoping that it can get through Mount Moon, because I do see them getting into here. And I want to increase this to 24 agents. I'll let this run, like I said, through the rest of the night tonight. And then I won't be online tomorrow. I'll be online Thursday in the afternoon. The idea here that we can get some good progress, hopefully regularly getting through Mount Moon again, getting to Misty. And I do want to give it enough iterations to do this. That way we can see the positive progress. So that's all for today. Basically, we didn't make any significant changes in terms of like new code. We just did adjustments on the reward thresholds. So encouraging it to hopefully level more and capture more Pokemon. So that way, when we get here to Mount Moon, it can be able to progress through and not get stuck as much, as well as changing the learning rate, or not learning rate, the amount of steps before learning. So I had increased that to 4,000, but right now I'm doing it every 1,000. I'm going to, I think, keep it that way. So that way we have more regular learning to hopefully encourage it to learn the good behaviors. We're seeing now scores into the 200 range. Still that one that's lagging behind in the 80. It's behind the rest of them, but hopefully we can do that. So, like I said, made some changes, and hopefully we can see good progress. So I will bring this offline for now, and then hopefully we'll see continuing good progress here. So for those of you who check this out, we've not been able to make it through Mount Moon with some of the recent changes. So we're making adjustments to hopefully let it go through Mount Moon. We're increasing the level reward before it starts to taper off. We're also increased the rewards for capturing Pokemon, and um, increased the overall level. Before we had, it was getting half the rewards from leveling even after the functionality change. So we're just making it so it just gets the rewards for the levels, and then after it hits an overall level of 30, it gets half the rate after that. And then increasing the capture rewards from 1 times to 3 times to encourage that. And then we brought the badge bonus down from 20 times for each badge to 5. that has encouraged it to level a bit more before getting to the gym. So we're seeing the deaths come down a little bit. Hopefully, we will see more progress through Mount Moon. So thanks for coming. I'll let this train now for the next 2 days. And when I stop it next time, hopefully we are achieving almost 100% rate on Cerulean City.